Got me in here for IrishBoxing.com. What's up, Oos? We back again, Sean.
How are things?
Good man, good. It's been a while since the old Zoom. Obviously, we a few chats here and there, but like it's nice to conversate face to face in a digital way. The last time we
I
actually
think that
talked was March 1st, like person to person.
March 1st,
Yeah.
that was a wild night.
Um. Actually, just quick, like kind of in depth into that. Rematch. It's been ordered. The IBF has ordered the rematch in between Lewis Cork and Paddy Donovan. Lewis Cork has came out earlier on this afternoon to say, I want the rematch. There's nothing else I want other than the rematch. Just your quick thoughts.
Yeah, look, he wouldn't have liked the way it finished. I do think he was obviously way behind, and the scorecards reflected that. But that's not the way he would have liked to to get the win. That's not the way, obviously, he would have liked to been made mandatory challenger. But now he's not mandatory challenger, and they got to do it again. I guess they're going to have to change their tactics. They're going to have to change things up as to the way they approach a fight, because Paddy had them figured out quite quickly on and pretty much dominated things, didn't he?
Mm.
So it makes for another intriguing fight. The fact that again it's the same thing on the line. I guess they're going to do it in another big show up in Belfast, and hopefully it makes for another
Mm.
brilliant night, brilliant fight. Same kind of crack without the trouble in the crowd, maybe.
If you haven't seen the comments by Billy Nelson accusing Eddie Hearn of saying
Wow.
basically that he said stuff that he didn't say, and then Andy Lee kind of responding to it where he reposted one of those Crockers things. He said basically fair play to you. So looks like there's no real malice in between. Kind of, I don't know, like it's kind of a 50-50, like everyone's saying on the same thing. But your thoughts again about that?
Yeah, look, I think Billy Nelson is probably a spiky enough character. He wanted to move straight on to have the fight for the world title. I don't know if that's a subconscious thing because they know that they lost the fight. Well, sorry, they won the fight, but they were losing the fight.
Yeah.
Um, but like all these things make for brilliant build-ups again.
Mm.
And the build-up to the first one was fantastic.
Yeah.
And look, it's just going to be spectacular again, hopefully.
Showdown this week. You have
Yeah,
not one, not two, not three, not four, five lads on this card. Thomas McCann, James
yeah,
Freeman, Conor Kerr,
yep,
Paul Jennings, and Matty Boreland.
yeah,
Let's just run through them. First off, Thomas McCann makes his professional debut against Owen Durnan.
yep.
Let's get into this fun. First off, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, so Tomas is in. Owen Durnan's a tough enough old character. He gets he he really gives prospects a proper test. Tomas is brimming with confidence. He's been sparring out of his skin. He's been training out of his skin, and he's a really confident fella. Really feels that he can make an impact in the game. Do you know? So the proof will obviously be in the pudding on Saturday night, but we're looking forward to a spectacular Davy performance, and I'm hoping that he's not going to go in too gung ho. I'd like him to get rounds.
Mm.
He I think he's going to go in there looking to really put on a dominant display and put on a show for a decent amount of tickets that he sold. So I'd like him to get the rounds done, but at the same time, if you can take Durnan out and it's something spectacular, sure, look, we're not going to complain about that, you know. But he's a talented kid.
Yeah.
He's got his head screwed on, and I'm just looking forward to seeing what he can bring.
James Freeman last time out was on the February 1st card. Um,
Yep.
yeah. Comes back on Showdown. It's first off, it's great to actually have Paddy McCroy on the manager side of things. I think that he has his head screwed on in terms of he knows what the game is. I'm not trying to sound offensive, but he knows what he's doing in a way where like he's been through the ranks. He knows what the game is built off, and he's using his professional skills to now kind of pay off into the promoter side. It's nice to see a new face as well in the Irish promoter game.
Yeah, and similar to Jay Byrne, Jay Byrne came up through the same kind of way. He
Yeah.
knows what it's like to be coming up, and he knows how hard it is for prospects, especially early on in your first one, two, three, four fights, when you really have to get your sponsors in and you have to get your tickets in. Paddy has come through that, and you look how what Paddy's achieved in the game. You
Yeah.
know, he's
Biggest
he's
highs to
won a
highs, really.
world, yeah, won a world title, fought headline shows, fought on the biggest cards, And now he's bringing that know-how into the promotion game. And do you know what? He's a brilliant fella.
Yeah,
Um,
great guy.
he's a pleasure to deal with. Like he's afforded me 5 slots on his debut show. So for him to be able to give me that trust, to be able to actually work with him to make sure everything goes smoothly from my side of things, and I hope that I've been able to kind of give him a bit of a hand in the way things have gone, and we've worked very well together. I've known him a little bit. Just through seeing him around at shows and chatting to him at shows, I've always got on very well with him. He's very good friends with Dan Anderson, who is obviously a good mate of mine and trains fighters of mine. So,
Mm.
me and Paddy have always got on very well. He's a dream to deal with, and I'm really looking forward to him having his first show, and I'm looking forward to obviously our lads having the show. Yeah, James steps up to 6 rounds for the first time, so
Okay,
that's
nice.
something that we've
Who
had in
thought
mind.
someone into
He had his
county
first fight.
would be stepping up to 6 rounds?
And now it's good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
And
good. It's
with
good.
very little boxing experience. James doesn't need to box. James wants to box, and that's somebody who you always want to have. It's not as though, there's two sides to it, the need and the real dog wanting you. James has both. He's driven, he works his arse off, and he sells himself well. He looks great. He boxes well. And now it's great for him to have come through having very little experience through semi-pro stuff. Like, I think he had 4 semi-pro fights, and in total there was about 5 minutes in total of them,
Yeah,
because he was just taking people out in that kind of sphere.
he's
So
powerful.
he is powerful, yeah, and he's a pure welter. He's a big welter, and he's come on leaps and bounds. You saw the improvements he made from before, having had the experience, because he had a good few injuries and he needed to work on the fundamentals. But that's what, that time out when he was injured, he had a hand injury. I think it was like a pinch in his calf going down through his Achilles. I think that kept him out. But for while he was out with them things, he used that time to improve on a lot of the basics, And I think we're going to see a pretty good performance from James on Saturday night. Over 6 rounds. It's his first time doing 6 rounds under the lights. He works hard. He's not going to be lacking for fitness. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing him. He's fighting Nathan Darby, who's an excellent boxer. Nathan Darby, I think, could have been a very good prospect. He fought Keane Reddy, and when Keane had made his debut, and Keane was like, this fella is a talented boxer. I think Darby just couldn't have been arsed going through the tickets and that whole route. So he works on the road, but he's a natural boxer, and it's something different that James might not have seen before. That kind of really slick, and he's a southpaw as well. So these are the things. 6 rounds with a southpaw, that'll stand to him going forward. When we move up again, we might do another 6 after this, and then we'll probably look at going down the gate route, down Celtic title kind of route.
Okay.
But he's making improvements, and just very much can't wait to see him out over 6 rounds.
Conor Kerr comes back against Erick Omar Lopez. I think Erick Omar Lopez fought Colin Murphy, if I'm correct.
Matty Boreland.
Matty Boreland, yeah.
Fought Matty.
Yeah, so kind of
Yeah.
I wonder.
Erick Omar Lopez is now.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that would Matty be able to offer experience? So no, would he be able to offer a lend to Conor, or a word to be like, this guy boxes like this, he's, if they chat.
Yes, they had 2 or 3 sparring sessions over the last few weeks together,
Yeah.
and Matty's given advice to Conor as to how Lopez operates. We watched Lopez. Lopez got a draw against an English prospect last weekend. He fought for an interim world title back in the day. Now at lower weights, and he's working on the road now, because it's great money when you're on the road and you're that talented. But Conor's going to have to keep his wits about him. I think if you go in against the likes of Lopez, who have that ability, and you go in and try to take their head off, Lopez will look at you and go, okay, if you really want to tear up, I'll give you a tear up.
Yeah.
So Conor knows what he needs to do. Conor's a very natural boxer. He'll go in and he'll box, and he'll work on the things that he's been working on since the 2 Farrell fights. He's up to now to featherweight, which is, I know he's a smaller fella, but he's more natural at feather, because even though he might, he's not as tall as the likes of Rudy and them, it was just affecting his performance going down to super bantam.
Yeah.
Because he had operated at 60 for so long in the amateurs, and he just feels more comfortable there. So I'm looking forward to seeing him getting back into the ring, getting a win, getting that confidence back, getting the feel of it without the pressure cooker of, a local rivalry fight for a title twice, and getting that confidence up, winning his fight. We probably have another one, and then we'll go back looking for a title again, or we could go straight back into a title.
Yeah,
we'll
Mexicans are tough as well. Mexicans are tough.
I'm sure they are.
Yeah,
Lopez is very tough.
Yeah,
you don't get to fight for an interim world title without being good and without being tough. So Conor needs to keep his wits about him, and he knows that. He's an intelligent guy. He's got his head screwed on. He's a very good boxer, so he'll go in and box, and he'll get his win. We'll move on.
Matty Boreland up next.
All going well. Matty Boreland fights. What's the man's name?
Fernando Valdez.
Fernando Joaquin Valdez. Yes, he's coming in Argentinian, so wouldn't be one that we would probably know enough from the scene. But he did fight on a matchroom bill last year, so we've had a look at him. And yeah, Matty is in a similar mold to James, in that when he fought against Callum Turnbull, he had only a couple of weeks training with Ryan Burnett. And so that was kind of one of those ones. Yeah, we'll get through this camp and we'll figure out things after. So he did that. He took an awful lot of learnings out of it. He's been working constantly on his head movement and his feet, and not looking to load up to box his way in, to set those traps, find the little openings when they're going to come, look further down into the rounds and progressively through the rounds. But that power still remains, so I'm looking forward to a big performance from Matty, to see those improvements. Ryan is really high on him. He's been telling me the whole time, this is a different fighter to what you've seen before. So it's going to be really exciting to see what that brings. If he's adding those little tools that Burnett brings, and keeps his power and finds that little shot, that right hand, that little right uppercut.
Yeah.
Powerful
little shot. Powerful little shot.
Bloody sure. And Matty does have power. Jake Pollard said he hit him the hardest that anyone's hit in years.
Yeah.
And Jake is a sturdy, tough journeyman. Jake's one of the best around. Survivor.
Awful nice guy as well. Lovely fella.
Brilliant fella. Yeah. Shout out to Jake.
Shout out Jake Pollard. I know he watches our content, so shout out Jake Pollard if you're watching this, man.
Shout out Jake Pollard. Yeah, legend.
And then finally, Carl Jennings finally debuts against Stephen Wallace. I think he was supposed to debut on the JB show that was in Belfast, but it's finally good to see him get a debut.
Yeah, Carl's another one who's going to be very, very exciting. And, it was terrible that he didn't get to have his debut, but look, we all know show to come off. But Cathal again has been working as he gone. He had a few days off. I think he went away for a few days just after that fight, as he was going to do after the fight. But he went straight back into camp, and he's been working, and he's getting sharper and sharper. And Cathal was very good. Cathal's now he hasn't just come in out of nowhere. Cathal was very good young amateur, and he's strong and exciting. And that's another one. He's a real dark horse to watch out for now as we go forward, because people might not know too much about Cathal Jennings, but trust me, he's going to be an exciting one to come up through the ranks. He's in with Stephen Wallace, who is a tough Liverpudlian who comes to fight. So he's going to be coming to try and take rounds off Cathal. So again, it's another one that keep your head. Don't get overly excited by the whole debut stuff, but he's got a really bright future. Now, saying that, it's not a case of, we'll get him into 4 now, 6 straight away, and we're going to look for something. He hasn't boxed competitively, kind of consistently competitively for a while. So the pro game obviously is completely different. But Cathal, when he was an amateur, kind of fought in an exciting pro style. So we're going to see that again on Saturday night, what he brings, because he's a real blink and you miss it kind of fighter, because he wants to impress, and he's a real student of the game as well. Like Dan would always say to me, I ask him to have a look at this and this and this, and he comes back the next day having watched 3 or 4 full 12-round fights, and they implement things into the way they work. So Dan's really high on him. I'm really high on him, and I can't wait to see him.
Just it's nice as well to have 2 Saturday night shows back to back. Saturday night,
Yeah,
this one is the Devenish in Belfast, big up Paddy McCroy, and then next Saturday we're in the
big
National
one.
Stadium, South Circular Road.
Yeah,
A place that a few of your lads have boxed for, the likes of Keen Reddy. And a great little area it is as well. You have Leonard's Corner up the road for fellas coming down before for food and few points beforehand, whatever they want, and then come down to the stadium and have a good time. But it's good to see boxing's back in this way. We're getting 2 big Saturday night shows.
yeah, and Keane boxed there the last time, and the whole leash crew come over and basically took over Leonard's Corner the last time. We
Yeah,
we went in after with
yeah.
Keane and Wayne, and Arias I think was there, and we went in and they had shut the doors down and said, no, we're full, there's a big crowd of coaches here, and we were like, no, he's the one the crowd of coaches are here for. Keane couldn't even get in because his crew had completely taken over Leonard's Corner. They were all singing and screaming and shouting, and he walked in up on the shoulders, and I think it was
Oh,
Country Roads they were singing. Sure,
gee.
Keane's a singer himself, but yeah, he's obviously back out next week. He's doing his first 6 rounder. He's
Yeah.
fighting Peter Brodsky, who's a dangerous one. He's 4-4, and we've watched plenty of footage of him.
Tape,
He
yeah.
comes in, has a right go,
Mm.
So that's another one. This is a nice little step up. Keane's had a couple of different looks on his opponents today, but the plan was always to get up to 6 around this time. So we're going to do the 6 rounds, and hopefully Keane can move through the gears and put in, like, Keane is a really, really classy boxer. He has all the talent in the world to go certainly into international waters, and European level and all that. Actually, I think what he said when he wins his world title, I have to get the country kit maybe tattooed on my arse or something like that.
Jesus Christ.
So he's gonna he's gonna hold me to that one when he wins his first world title. But he has the talent to do it. He's young enough. He's talented enough. He's with a great team with Wayne Woods and Arias. He works extremely hard, and he has all the talent to back it up. He's again next week. There's going to be a huge crowd coming up from Portlaoise, and you saw how good TJ Doheny has gone through his career, and Keane wants to be the next kind of superstar from Laois. So really looking forward to him fighting for the first time over 6 rounds against a real live opponent. And after that, we'll see where we go, but we'll be looking at keeping him nice and busy.
It's a great 2 weeks for Irish boxing. Keane looks, again, you said, to step up, a tough opponent. Is there anything, any other fighters that you can tell the people that you'll have, if you have any other fighters on?
Well, Miles is fighting for the county
Yeah,
title
exactly.
against
Yeah, that's what I
Paul
was trying to
Lynn.
hint at. Yeah. Oh, what's he going?
Sorry, the dog was scratching at the door there to get out, so I had to let the dog out. Yeah, so Miles Casey fights Paul Lynn. Brilliant fight. Paul, we all know how good Paul is. I know you had a little interview with Paul in the sauna or whatever
Yeah,
it was.
in a hot tub.
Paul,
Yeah.
yeah, Paul is predicting, what was he, spitefulness and all that kind of stuff, and we know how good Paul is. Look, everybody knows how good Paul is. So this is a real tough test for Miles, but Miles is an elite champion himself. Boxed internationally, boxed on Ireland teams away in European championships, and I think the step up in opponent is going to see a better Miles Casey. He's put really, really, really hard work into this camp, and he is prepared, has sparred out of his skin. He's done a lot of rounds of sparring with a lot of different looks and a lot of different styles. He's just finishing up his sparring, I think, tonight and tomorrow. And I think Miles has the potential to really shock a lot of people, certainly by the performance. People are writing him off straight away. He lost his debut He got a really bad cut right down the middle of his eye. And all it was, there was just blood was pissing into his eye the whole time. Lost that by a round. It was just one of them nightmare debuts, you know. Then it was a much more like it the next time. The promoter, it was the same promoter who had him on the first time, had him on the second time. He had his opponent down, won that nice and comfortably, and then he got involved in his first six rounder against Kane Singh in the stadium the last time, and he just got involved in a war
Yeah.
when he really kind of didn't need to. And I said to him, "What were you doing getting in?" He said, "I just like it that way." But while it's just taken him a little bit of time, probably to get the hang of the pro game, fighting against journeymen who some come to survive, some will come and have a go. Like that fight he fought the last time was way up in weight because that
Yeah.
was what the opponent had insisted on. Miles is coming down. His weight is much better than it has been basically ever as a pro, and I think I really do think he's going to surprise a lot of people. You know, he's been written off, and people are kind of saying, "Ah, look, this is just Paul's to lose." But I think, and I know Paul's team aren't writing off Miles. I know Niall Barrett has not left a stone unturned. You know, um, and I think we're in for a pretty entertaining fight between Miles and Paul for the BOI Celtic Super Bantamweight title.
Ian, on that note, I have to let you go. And thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Oos. Abosh.